with the OC Yoga Festival. Awesome. So for those of you that are already on here at home, go ahead and grab a piece of paper, or if you have a journal that you write in, grab a journal. If none of that's available, it's okay. But if you have it available within your space right now, just grab it real quick, and then we're gonna kind of work with that a little bit. I'm really excited to be here. We're doing a workshop today on the 8 limbs of yoga. We're going to kind of apply it a little bit more directly to dealing with 2020, and we'll get a little bit more into that in just a moment when we get going officially. I think cool. And we will be having a question and answer session at the end, so you can always send questions, and some of them will be sent through to me, and I will leave about 5 minutes, a little bit more, depending on how quickly I get through things, but at least 5 minutes for any questions that you might have at the end of this workshop. Yeah, awesome. I'm gonna go in here in just a second, and like I said, grab a piece of paper and a pen. Sorry, you need a pen too, or something to write with. If you have a journal, you can grab your journal, or if you want to just kind of sit and not do any of that, that's fine too. It's always up to you, but I think it'd be nice to kind of write some of these things down that we're going to be going through just for future reference and memory. So yeah, awesome. So I would like to know where everybody's tuning in from. Let me know where you're at. I'm here in Orange County, currently South Orange County, Aliso Viejo. So I would love to hear where you're tuning in from. If you're local to California, maybe you're tuning in from somewhere else, we'd love to hear where you're at and where you're from. So just kind of say hi to us, let us know what's up, and yeah, love to get to know you guys. Awesome. Okay, we are live and good to go. So we're gonna go ahead. Awesome. We got Irvine in the house from Christy. Oh, Oakland. Awesome. What's up, Carrie? Nice to see you. I love it. Thanks for sharing where you're tuning in from. I love this kind of virtual stuff for that aspect of getting to kind of tune in and do things with people from different spaces that we don't really get to. So that's what's nice kind of about this whole virtual yoga thing we're doing. So that'll kind of segue us. We're going to go ahead and get going. So welcome if you're just joining on. Once again, I'm Katie Marshall. I'm a local yoga teacher here in Orange County and teach for multiple yoga studios out here for the past couple of years. And I'm really excited to be here with you all today on this lovely Sunday. Down here in Orange County, we've had great weather. So I might look a little red because I was at the beach. So, you know, hold the extra sun, but that's okay. We're used to it out here. So at home, if you can, grab a piece of paper and a pen or a journal or something of that nature to maybe either write some notes, or we're going to do some reflections and stuff. So this is going to kind of segue into, I'm just going to give you guys kind of an overall look at what we're going to go through today, and then we're going to start getting into the nitty-gritty details. So this is a workshop on the 8 limbs of yoga. If you're new to yoga, or maybe you've been practicing for a long time and it's just nice to have a refresher or just get different perspectives and viewpoints on it. These things, I'm just going to be doing a brief kind of overview of it today. I'm going to be giving some specific questions for us to kind of contemplate and reflect on. That's kind of a little bit relevant to the past year that we've all been kind of going through here in 2020. So we're going to be kind of applying them directly to our current state of being right now in the year of 2020 and everything that has come along with it so far. So pens, papers, grab any of that stuff. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of give you a quick brief overview, and then we're going to come back around and do a little bit more in-depth kind of look with some reflection and questions and kind of take a look at these things. So the 8 limbs of yoga, they're from the Yoga Sutras. The Yoga Sutras were written by Patanjali back in about 500 to 200 BCE. So these texts
these ideas, these writings, these scriptures are very, very old, which I think is very interesting personally. So that's just kind of a little bit of background of how old these practices are. They've evolved and changed a little bit as time has gone on, and especially now as yoga has moved to the West, we kind of adapt different ways of approaching it. So that's why today I'm going to tell you kind of the basics of the 8 limbs, and then we're going to go into a little bit of depth about how we can apply it to our modern lives here and today. So if you want to write these down, you can. What I would recommend is maybe if you want to draw like a little tree with 8 branches, that's kind of fun. As you write it in, you can kind of get creative and artistic with it. But I'm just going to do a quick, I'm going to tell you all the 8 limbs, and then we're going to kind of come back around and go through a little bit of detail. But before we get going, I just want us all to take a moment and to kind of just connect with ourselves, to take a moment to take a mindful deep breath. So just come to a comfortable seat, whatever that is. Maybe you're sitting on the floor, on a pillow, on a chair, on a cushion, whatever is comfortable for you. I just want you to bring the hands to a space that is comfortable, whatever that is. Maybe on the thighs, maybe in the lap, maybe on the sides of the body, wherever is comfortable for you. And let's just all together, from all the spaces that we're tuning in from, just take a nice deep inhale and a nice full exhale. And we're going to do that a few more times. Take a nice deep inhale and a nice full exhale. 3 times a charm. Nice deep inhale and exhale, let it go. Okay, that kind of sets our stage. That takes us out of kind of maybe any distractions we have and into the current and present moments. Taking nice, deep, concentrated breaths also help activate the relaxation response. So that's a good thing. So let's get into this. I'm just going to, like I said, do a brief overview. So the first limb of the 8 limbs of yoga are the yamas. The yamas are known as things that we abstain from, kind of self-control, social ethics, things of that nature. And we'll get a little bit deeper, like I said, into this in just a moment. I'm going to give you a brief just breakdown of all the limbs, and then we'll kind of get into it. The first limb is the yamas, and that's, I know it's kind of like, what? How do you spell that? It's Y-A-M-A-S. And you can always kind of look it up on Google too after this if you want to. So that's the first limb. Second limb is the niyamas. So the niyamas are kind of a way for us to interact with our external environment, with people around us, as well as ourselves. So these are a little bit different in the way that we go about it. Yeah, so it's a little bit more personal in the way that we approach it. The third limb is asana. So notice how the third limb is asana. So asana is yoga postures. That is the most common practice we do here in the West is yoga asana. So that's all your vinyasa classes, your hatha classes, gentle, restorative. Those are all yoga asanas. So those are the yoga postures. So just an interesting thing to notice, it's not the first limb. Just a little side note, a little star next to it. So the next limb after asana, so now we're on the fourth limb, is pranayama. Pranayama is breathing, breathing exercise, pranayama exercises. The fifth limb is pratyahara. So pratyahara is sensory withdrawal. So that's kind of withdrawing from the external world, going a little bit more into the senses. Okay, and then from there, we go into dharana. Dharana is the sixth limb, and that means concentration. And this limb and the next limb are going to sound very similar, but they're spelled a little bit differently, and I'll tell you about that. So dharana is spelled D-H-A-R-A-N-A, dharana. So that's the sixth limb. The seventh limb is dhyana. That's D-H-Y-A-N-A, and that means meditation. And the eighth limb is samadhi, which means absorption, bliss, that space of that we all try to get to where we're just at peace with everything and we're just blissfully floating through life. So that's just a brief overview of the 8 limbs of yoga. And like I said, we're going to kind of tackle them in a way that applies to 2020, that these 8 limbs are something you practice all the time, day in, day out. And I think that a good way to explain them is from a text that I have here. So I'm just going to read to you, kind of to explain these limbs to you. So the first 5 limbs. So that's the yamas, niyamas, asana, pranayama, and pratyahara. The first 5 limbs constitute active willful practice requiring ongoing effort and discipline. They are considered external because they describe how we interact with others, how we can care for our physical, emotional, and energetic bodies, and how we manage our life forces, and how we interact with our various environments that we're in. So that's kind of the first 5 limbs. The last 3 limbs are considered internal. They're subtle blessings that arise from the efforts of going through the first 5 limbs. When we go through the first 5 limbs, you got to think of your body kind of like a garden. And the first 5 limbs are these little seeds that you're planting in your garden for peace and bliss and whatever it is you're trying to cultivate more of in your life. And the last 3 really prepare the field for it. They make it grow, they water it, they nurture it, they nourish those seeds that you planted. So those last 3 limbs are a little bit more internal, they're a little bit more personal, and they're a little bit more self-growth oriented. And it takes a little bit of time sometimes to get to some of those last limbs. And like I said, it's a practice. You're going to continue going through these limbs for multiple cycles, most likely. I teach them often in classes that I teach. So from here, we're going to go into a little bit of a journaling reflection type of space. So like I said, grab a piece of paper if you haven't already. Grab, you might see the fur baby come into the picture every now and again. So this, what I'm going to ask you to do is we're going to go through the yamas and the niyamas. So the first 2 limbs of the 8 limbs of yoga, because they go a little bit more into detail of how to really prepare the body and the mind for those last 3 limbs. Because it's really important that your body and mind be in a proper space to get to some of those deeper states of connection and meditation. It makes the body and mind prepared. Just like any practice, you have to start at the beginning, right? So this is the beginning. So I just want you to come to a comfortable seat if you aren't already. And like I said, we're going to go through the first 2 limbs in a little bit more depth. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to explain the yamas and the niyamas. I'm going to ask you a question of reflection. And I want you to write down whatever comes to your mind first. It can be 1 word, it could be a small sentence. It doesn't have to be lengthy or anything. Because like I said, we're going to kind of get through this because we do only have an hour and I really want to share all of this stuff with you. So the first limb is the yamas. And like I said, the yamas are they're kind of things that we abstain from in dealing with our external environment. Okay, so the first of the yamas, there's 5 yamas. And the first of the yamas is ahimsa. Ahimsa means non-harming. So non-harming in the sense of not being violent, not being harmful to other living things. And so when I say ahimsa in 2020, I think that means approaching it in a way of just noticing how our actions, our words, and all those things can affect not only ourselves, but those around us. So the reflection question for ahimsa that I'd like you to write down an answer for, or at least reflect with it within your own mind if you don't have anything to write with handy, is, do my actions and words create more harm than good in the past week? So why don't you just take a quick moment to think about that. So just the past week, doesn't have to be your whole lifetime. We all have, ups and downs. I'm just saying within the past week. Within the past week, have your actions and words towards yourself, towards others, have they created a sense of happiness and acceptance, or maybe a space of maybe not so much happiness, but acceptance? So just taking a moment to maybe write that down or reflect on that. How do my actions and words affect my environment and those in my environment and myself? So just taking a moment to think about that or write it down. So when we think of ahimsa, I think of practicing non-harming with my words. I think of practicing non-harming with my actions. I think of practicing non-harming the way that I approach my body, as in putting only good food into my body, good clean food that is derived from good sources that aren't harming our environment or other living things. And we can all approach these things in our own way, but that's just the way that I personally approach it. So that's kind of the way you can approach ahimsa. How do your words and actions, what do they do to the people around you? So the next little question I want to ask you with that is, do you practice the idea of non-harming or non-violence more with yourself or with others? So some of us can tend to be self-sacrificing, right? So noticing if you practice that idea, if you're a little bit more non-harming when it comes to others or yourself. Will you bite your tongue before saying something to someone that might hurt them? But maybe at the same time, you're not getting enough sleep or not eating good food for your body, things of that nature. So taking a moment or two to kind of think about that. So now we're going to kind of move into the next yama. So we're still on the first limb. So it's the first limb yama, and it's kind of got some subcategories beneath it. And those are these words and ideas that I'm going through now. So the next one underneath the yamas is satya. That means truthfulness. When we think of truthfulness, we think of truthfulness not only in the sense of not telling a lie, but being truthful with ourselves and who we really are, what our capabilities are, being truthful in the words that we say to other people. Of course, we don't want to lie. And also as far as like our yoga practices, being truthful in what our bodies are capable of that day. Everything's different. And we're going to look at that a little bit later when we get into the asana portion of things. So like I said, satya means truthfulness. So a little reflection question for that. Are your words and actions with yourself and others truthful? So this can kind of come across in 2020 as making sure that before we write that post on Facebook, before we respond to that person's post on Facebook or text, making sure that what we're saying is truthful, making sure that it's honest, making sure it's coming from an authentic place, or maybe making sure that what we're saying is researched and educated. So that's kind of how it ties in a little bit more into 2020, because we've all been on social media, right? It's a little bit of a battlefield right now. And I think that if we start to practice a little bit more satya, a little more truthfulness in what we share and what we say, and also honoring other people's truths as well, because we all have our own truths. So how are your words and actions being true to you? Are they? So reflecting on that for a moment. Maybe bringing to mind one way that you could live a little bit more true to yourself. We've had a moment to kind of reflect on that. Moving on to the next yama. The third one under the first limb of yoga, the yamas, is asteya. So asteya, a lot of these have a couple different ways of being translated and looked at and perceived, just like anything. But it means non-stealing, it means non-greed, it also means non-attachment. So it means kind of checking in with what you're attached to in your life. When we pay attention to the simple things. You don't really need a whole lot of extra, right? So, but also asteya doesn't only pertain to materialistic items. Asteya you can also steal or attach to people's time, their energy, their peace of mind. So it's a good thing to think of is something or someone stealing your time or energy or peace of mind? Or are you maybe stealing somebody else's time, peace of mind, or energy? And that can kind of show up in a lot of different ways. Maybe just not being mindful and asking if somebody has time to listen to you or to talk with you about something that you're having a hard time with, or practicing stealing somebody's peace, or by maybe saying something that isn't really necessary but you feel a need to say because it's your opinion or something of that nature, but it steals somebody else's peace. So being aware of these moments when we're not only stealing materialistic items, but we're stealing peace and energy and time or physical space, things of that nature. So noticing how you might be stealing somebody else's, or maybe there's something in your life that's been taken from you. And so noticing that. And the fact and the practice of noticing these things is we will talk about in a few minutes when we get to the niyamas, but noticing these things, these moments where something's kind of taken away from you. If you're on social media and you notice that it's like taking away your peace, get off social media, just delete the app, go offline for a little bit, things of that nature. Do you have a friend that is constantly dragging you down because, maybe they're just a heavy energy, maybe not hang out with that person as much or as often, or in certain settings when you feel energetically enough to give to that person. So noticing those kind of things that are kind of depleting and taking away from you. Just reflecting on that is, are you or someone else stealing time, peace, energy? And being honest with yourself, no judgment. That's the thing with these 8 limbs, is noticing these things about ourselves. We're all human. None of us are perfect. Thank goodness, right? None of us are perfect. So making sure that while we're going through this, you're also being kind to yourself. And that's part of the ahimsa, the non-harming, that first yama, is being kind to yourself, practicing kind thoughts and kind words to yourself too, even while you might be discovering some things about yourself that maybe you're like, oh, interesting. But that's just what it is. It's something to observe. So moving on to the next yama, which is the second to last yama, is brahmacharya. So traditionally, brahmacharya was the idea of celibacy. It's evolved a little bit more, and some people still practice that within the yoga realms, and that's still, like I said, it's a very prominent practice, but we've also kind of adopted it in other ways of being conscious of our life energy, our life force, being mindful with who we share energy with, our time with, our thoughts, our hearts with, right? So that's kind of where the idea of brahmacharya comes from, is maintaining your energy so that you can utilize the full potential of your energy without depleting yourself or giving it away. So when it comes to brahmacharya in 2020, protecting your vital life force energy, that means not partaking in things that drain you. Maybe that's social media, maybe that's political conversations, maybe it's whatever it may be. It might be a couple different things. So my question to you is, how could you protect your vital force energy at this time? At this time, right here, right now. Maybe there's one thing that you could do more of. Maybe it's spend more time in nature, spend more time alone, spend more time with someone that really helps fill your cup up. So bring to mind, write it down, however you're journaling this. How can you protect your vital life force energy? Have you noticed any habits that might be depleting? Maybe you put others before yourself. Maybe you don't get enough sleep. You don't eat enough food or eat enough good food or drink enough water. These are all things that we can do to help protect our vital life force energy as well, to protect ourselves. So the last yama is a parigraha. A parigraha is normally known as non-attachment. So we want to think of a parigraha as not being attached to outcomes, to material items, to things, and just kind of going with the flow a little bit more. And I think in 2020 right now, we've been giving a lot of opportunity to practice a parigraha of practicing non-attachment, because a lot of the things that we're used to, a lot of the things that we get in routines of that make us comfortable have been stripped away from us. A lot of things have changed in the past 8 months. As we all know, we've all been going through these things in the past 8 months, and all of us are affected on different levels. So, but noticing maybe during this time of discomfort, how you might be attaching more to certain things than other things. Maybe attaching more to food habits or beverage habits or other habits to kind of just get by. Notice if you're kind of clenching. So a question I have for you to kind of reflect on for this is, how does what you desire affect the way you act? Because oftentimes when we're in a state of attachment, of grasping, of holding on, we'll do anything to hold on to that attachment. And that sometimes means not being mindful of other people, not being mindful of how our actions might affect other people in our conquest to get that thing that we're attached to. We might kind of not be as mindful of the people that we kind of come across as we get to that point we're trying to get to, because we're just so focused on that one thing, that one attachment, that whatever that might be. So how does what you desire affect the way you act? In the past few months, the past week, doesn't have to be your whole lifetime, just recently. Maybe something that comes to mind. Usually the first thing that comes to mind is a good thing to go with. So noticing how a parigraha, the idea of attachment, might be presenting itself in your day-to-day life. I know I'm doing a lot of talking right now, but we will be getting to a little bit of a physical practice, a short physical practice on meditation and pranayama. So we will be doing a little bit of movement. So this is just the reflection part of it all. And I want you to kind of take some of these ideas and remember it as we go forward throughout the rest of this workshop as well. So now we are leaving the yamas and we're going into the niyamas. So the niyamas is the second limb of the 8 limbs of yoga. So these are observances. These are things that we do within ourselves. They're personal disciplines. So the first one, the yamas, are the way that we interact with our external world, with people, with our environment. So all those ideas of ahimsa, satya, steya, brahmacharya, parigraha, those are all things you should practice, not only with yourself, but with your entire environment that you exist in, all the living things that you come in contact with. So now going to the niyamas. So these are more a little bit personal, a little bit more self-discipline. So these can be a little bit more intimate. So as far as in the way that they come across and the feelings they might provoke. So coming into the niyamas, the first niyama is saucha. It's a good one to start with because saucha means purity, cleanliness, and when it comes to yoga and this 8-limb practice, it aims to clear the body of dis-ease, of toxins, of anything that doesn't serve the body. So these practices are self-disciplines to help clear our physical body and mind so that we are ready for the later limbs of yoga. So this is kind of like an 8-step program if you haven't kind of thought about it like that already. So it's kind of like an 8-step program. So coming to Saucha, cleanliness, purity. So when we think of Saucha, we think of more in 2020 of kind of cleaning out your space. Maybe that's cleaning out your closet. Maybe that's cleaning out that one junk drawer you have in the kitchen. We all know we got that one junk drawer, someone has a bunch of random things, and then you're just like, I don't even know what's in there. Maybe cleaning out that drawer. Maybe it's cleaning your car. Maybe it's doing a cleanse for your body, cleaning out your body by doing like a juice cleanse or a fasting cleanse or something of that nature. So Saucha, or maybe it's even cleaning out your contacts list or your friends list, which I know we've all been doing a lot of in 2020 on Facebook. Oh goodness, yes, we've been clearing out those friends lists of like, oh wow, okay, all right. So that's the idea of cleansing the body, the mind, our physical, mental, and emotional states of being, so that we're a little bit more open to receive what we do need, what we do deserve. So letting go of the things that we don't need anymore. So Saucha, cleanliness, purity. So the question I have for you to reflect on with this is, how could you cleanse or clear either your space, your energy, your body, your mind? Maybe there's a space you're feeling a little bit cluttered and kind of stopped up, and you could use some cleansing and some releasing. Just think about that for a moment. Is this thing you're trying to cleanse physical, mental, emotional? Tuning into that aspect of it too. Moving on to the next niyama is santosha, contentment. So being content with what we have. 2020 has probably taken a lot away from a lot of us, a lot of certainty, security, comforts, routines, things that we enjoy doing. 2020, to be honest, it's taken a lot. And that's okay, because it also leaves what is necessary. Do you have food on your table? Do you have lights on? Do you have a home to sleep in, a bed to sleep in? That is enough. That's what basic human needs is: food, shelter, and hopefully love, I would say too. So hopefully you have some friends or loved ones that you can connect with as well. So right now, I want you to bring to mind one thing in your life that you're content with, that you're happy to have. Whatever that is, maybe it's a person, maybe it's a yoga class, maybe it's a hobby, whatever that may be. Bring into mind something that you are content with. Write it down, think about it. It could be one word, it could be a little sentence. It doesn't have to be anything super in depth unless you want it to be, or you can go back and add more to it later. Okay, moving on to tapas. Tapas, oof. I've been saying this in all my classes for the past 8 since COVID-19 happened. We are experiencing the great time of tapas. So tapas is to burn, to light, to purify. It means accepting but not causing pain. So we've all been in a state at some point, probably in the last, since 2020 began, of discomfort, right? Like I said, the last one, our routines, our habits, jobs, livelihoods, things have changed, they've shifted, they've been taken away. Growing pains is what comes to mind when I think of tapas. Is yes, we are going through all these intense, extreme changes, but we're growing, we're evolving, hopefully. We can use these changes and these times to learn about ourselves, to fortify ourselves, to go through that kind of process of strengthening, kind of, walking through the fire to get to the other side stronger, purified, that you did it. So I think that 2020 is like the year of tapas personally. So I think that's a really, really good niyama for 2020 to kind of practice. So my question to you, what in your life are you avoiding because it's uncomfortable? And there's probably a multitude. But just bring maybe the first thing that comes to mind. What are you avoiding because it's uncomfortable? Maybe it is cleaning that closet out. Maybe it's having a tough conversation with somebody. Maybe it's making a tough decision when it comes to a job situation or a living situation. What are you avoiding because it might be a little uncomfortable? And then what's maybe one step, just one step that you could take towards that thing that's making you uncomfortable that you're just avoiding dealing with? Just one step. You don't have to have it all figured out, just one step. Maybe it's saving a little bit of extra money. You're not spending money on silly things, or maybe it's eating healthier foods, even though they might not taste as great to you at first. Things of that nature. So moving on to the second to last limb, not last limb, but last niyama. So this is one I think that is imperative throughout life, and I think it's very important, is Svadhyaya. So Svadhyaya invites us to study ourselves. It invites us to notice ourselves, our habits, our patterns, our tendencies. We move through life so distracted, especially in 2020. We got all these screens, all these apps, all these things that just constantly pull the attention outside of ourselves to these external sources. So Svadhyaya invites us to take to take all of that back, to bring that awareness back to ourselves, to pay attention to ourselves. So I want you to think of maybe the roles you have in your life, the labels that come with them, the identities that are wrapped around them. Maybe you're a manager, maybe you're a CEO, maybe you're an entrepreneur, or you're a student. Notice these roles and labels that you have. And I want you to think about, who would you be without those labels? Who are you? Are you kind? Are you compassionate? What are you? When you take away the label of doctor or student or friend or mother, husband, wife, daughter, who are you? What does that mean right now? Because everything has changed in the past 8 months. Maybe noticing habits that have developed over the past 8 months in reaction to your environment. Being aware of those things as part of Svadhyaya. Noticing, oh wow, I tend to push too hard in this realm, or not try hard enough here, or whatever it might be. So now going into the final niyama, which is Ishvara Pranidhana, which means surrender. Surrender to a divine power, whatever that divine power is for you. It could be the religion you follow, whatever that idea of divine power and energy is for you. Surrender. But surrender can also mean a lot of other different things too. Surrender can mean self-service to others. It can mean surrendering your time, your energy to help somebody else. So I want you to think of how you could serve somebody else. Maybe it's by bringing somebody a hot meal because they can't get out of the house right now because maybe they're they're high risk. Maybe it's sending somebody a care package because they're limited in resources, or just spending some time outside with somebody or on the phone with somebody. How could you be in service to others? How could you surrender yourself to another person's needs? or something of that nature. So we've gone through the yamas and the niyamas. And this was just a really brief overview. These things are dense. They can take a lot of study. They can take a lot of time going through them and re-going through them. I continue to revisit all of these things when I teach, when I practice, on and off the mat. So these are not only things that we practice when we're on a yoga mat on that little rubber rectangle. These are things that we practice in life. That's part of this 8-limbed path. Is it's creating a life that supports the yogic path, that creates peace, creates balance, creates like a holistic feeling within the body. So now we're going to go on and look a little bit more at the other limbs as we're going forward. So we're going to do a quick little asana practice, because that's our next limb after the yamas and niyamas, which, like I said, are the first two. Now we're going to come to asana, which is, like I said, yoga posture. So this is what we commonly think of as yoga. Here in Orange County and in the West, in the United States, we think of standing on our head, we think of handstands, we think of doing all these crazy things, right? But the postures are actually designed to ready the body to sit in meditation for long periods of time. We've all tried to sit, right? It's hard for a lot of us. Your back starts to hurt, your neck starts to hurt, you start hunching forward. All of these things, actually sitting and being comfortable to meditate is a challenge, because a lot of times we do more sitting than moving. And these movements, these stretches, these postures open the body, strengthen the body, release tension in the body, so that sitting and meditating is easier physically, so that the mind doesn't have to worry so much about what the body's feeling. The mind can focus more on relaxing and releasing. So I want you to come to a seat, whether that's sitting, like I said, on a couch, on a cushion, on the floor. You could sit cross-legged, you could sit with legs straight out, you could sit on a chair with the legs bent. Just come to a comfortable seat. That's what we call a sukhasana, a comfortable and easy seated position. Okay, so as you sit here, I want you to just notice the way your body's feeling. Notice the way the hips feel without any judgment. No judgment here today. We're just observing ourselves and just meeting ourselves. So noticing the way the body feels, the legs, the hips, the knees, the ankles, the shoulders, the neck. Just noticing the way that you're feeling. Okay, so just take a quick moment. Use Svadhyaya, one of the yamas, the idea of self-study. Notice yourself. So I want you to kind of take some of those ideas from the yamas and niyamas and apply them to this. Okay, so the idea of non-harming, that idea of truthfulness, that idea of contentment. Be happy to be in this body that we have right now. So just noticing the way that you feel. Taking a few deep inhales and exhales, really focusing on inhaling and exhaling. While breathing is something we do naturally, mindful breaths, like I said, activate the relaxation response. From here, just gently relax the shoulders down away from the ears. Notice if they've kind of come up around the ears. Relax them down. Gently release the chin towards the chest. Take a few deep breaths here. Notice if you've started to kind of round forward, keep sitting up nice and tall. And on your next inhale, I want you to take your chin up to one shoulder. Doesn't really matter which one's first. And then on exhale, the chin will come down and across the chest like a semicircle to the other shoulder. Take a nice deep inhale there. And exhale to come back down and across. I want you to go through this for a few rounds, moving from side to side as you take some nice deep inhales and exhales. You might observe as you go through this that after a few rounds, maybe the neck and shoulders get a little bit more comfortable. Maybe you notice some cracks, some pops. That's all normal. But of course, if you're experiencing any pain, I always say if it hurts, don't do it. If the pain level gets a little bit above a 5, it is definitely not necessary. So ideas of tapas is, yes, sometimes these postures are uncomfortable, but usually if we breathe through that discomfort, we find a little bit more comfort at the end. Then on your next exhale, bring the chin back to the center of the chest. Use one of the hands, gently press the head to an upright. From here, just take the shoulders in a few circles. Go in one direction. Now these postures we're doing are very basic, gentle postures. Just to kind of let you know, these are just really gentle ones. Not going to be doing anything crazy. No standing on our heads today. Not in this one. And then go in the opposite direction. Continue to take some deep inhales and exhales. Using those ideas that we learned in the yamas and the niyamas, applying them here too. Practicing taking care of our bodies, our minds. And bring the shoulders to a still. From here, we'll reach the hands up towards the ceiling. Take a nice deep inhale. Then on your exhale, release the left hand beside you. Right arm will reach up and over. Take a few deep breaths here. You can look down towards the ground or look up towards the right hand. Depends on how it feels to your neck. So practice being truthful and honest with yourself, Satya. Bring the head to a space that feels good to you. Whichever one is good. We'll take an inhale, bring the hands back to center, reaching back up to the ceiling. And then on exhale, right arm beside you, left arm reaches up and over. Take a few deep breaths here. Once again, gaze could be down at the ground or looking up towards the extended left hand. And come back to center, take a nice deep inhale, and then bring the hands through heart center on exhale. I want you to switch, if you're sitting cross-legged, switch the leg that's on top or on in front, bringing the other leg. Now once again, reach the hands up to the ceiling. Take a nice deep inhale. Then on your exhale, take your left hand to your right knee. Take your right hand behind you, look over your right shoulder. So this is a seated twist. Twists are really good to help the body release what no longer serves them. So it's a good thing for like the idea of tapas, of letting go, of releasing. They're also really good for the digestive tract. It helps our body physically let go. And they release, come back to center, reach the hands up to the sky, take a nice deep inhale. And then on exhale, take right hand to left knee, left hand behind you, look over the left shoulder. Take a few deep breaths here. And then we'll gently come back to center. So that was just a brief couple of exercises that help kind of release the low back and shoulders. So just taking a moment here to maybe notice how the body feels now as compared to a few minutes ago. So now what we're going to do is we're going to transition into a breathing exercise, a pranayama. So pranayama is the fourth limb of the 8 limbs of yoga. It is breath work, breathing. It's be something we do naturally, of course, but when we bring more effort to the breath, we can control it because our breath is part of our vital life force energy. So it can kind of be connected to the Brahmacharya of conserving that vital life or life force energy. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a very, it's a very common breathing exercise. It's called Nadi Shodhana. I really like it because it's simple, it's easy, you can do it at any time, and it's very calming. So it's great to do right now if you're at the store or you're driving or you've been on Facebook. It's a really good breathing exercise to kind of cool and calm the mind and the body. Just kind of bring the nervous system down a little bit. Okay. So you're going to take the middle and index finger together. You're going to make like an L with the thumb and the middle and index finger together. You're going to plug one nostril with the thumb, okay? One nostril will be open, right? So right now my right nostril is open. So I'm going to inhale through the right nostril. After I've inhaled, I'm going to plug the right nostril with the thumb and index, or not thumb and index, with thumb and, not thumb, index and ring finger. And then I'm going to exhale through the left nostril. After you exhale through the left nostril, inhale through that nostril once again. So inhaling through the left, plugging the left nostril with the thumb, and then exhaling through the other nostril, the right nostril. Inhale, plug, release the opposite side, exhale. Inhale through the side you just exhaled through. Plug that side. Release the other side, exhale. Inhale through that side again. Plug, exhale through the opposite side. Let's continue through this for a few rounds on your own. Go through one more round. And gently release the hands and just take a moment to observe. So from here, we're going to come into Pratyahara, which is sensory withdrawal. We're going to mash that up with Dharana, which is concentration, and Dhyana, which is meditation. So we're going to kind of take these together, also because we only have an hour, so we're a little bit limited on time. So I want you, so Pratyahara sensory withdrawal, that's withdrawing from your external stimuluses. Like I said, turning off music, TV, screens. Don't turn off the screen now because you're listening to me. But this is that idea of just kind of coming to a quiet space where you can just kind of come within yourself and just be with yourself. So I want you to close your eyes. So that is one way to cut off one stimulus, is our sight. We get a lot of input from our sight. Our brain does a lot of work when we're looking at things. So close your eyes. And I want you to focus on the spaces behind the eyelids. That's where we're combining Pratyahara with Dharana, which is concentration. So focus on the back of the eyelids. Notice how when you focus on the back of the eyelids, focus intently. When we focus on something intently, everything else kind of begins to fade away. You might notice that sounds begin to fade. Sensations such as the feelings against the skin or something like that might begin to fade because we're really focusing on that one space behind the eyelids. I like to think of concentration, that dharana is kind of like being in the zone. If you're an athlete, like nothing else matters but what's going on that court or that field. Everything else begins to blur into the background, or if you're working on an art piece, you're really focused on that space that you're working in. Everything else begins to fade away. That's the idea of pratyahara, withdrawing as well as concentrating. And continuing to keep that concentration on the back of the eyelids, we're going to move into a meditation. And we're going to do the metta meditation, the loving kindness meditation. So within your mind, I want you to repeat these things to yourself. Okay, so you don't need to say it out loud. You can just repeat it within your mind. I want you to repeat, may I be happy, kind, may I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. And may I be at ease. We'll go through those again. Say with these to yourself within your own mind. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. And may I be at ease. And now I want you to bring into mind a loved one, a friend. It might not even be a loved one. Maybe it's somebody that you're having a hard time getting along with. That's the perfect person to practice this meditation. So let's do that. Let's bring to mind somebody that we're having maybe a hard time getting along with. Maybe your opinions or views are different right now. And within your mind, I want you to repeat this while thinking of that person. May that person be happy. May that person be healthy. May that person be safe. And may that person be at ease. We'll go through that again. Once again, think of that person that you might be having a hard time getting along with, seeing eye to eye. And repeat within your mind, thinking of that person. May that person be happy, and really mean it. May that person be healthy. May that person be safe. And may that person be at ease. And just take a moment here to just exist for a moment. And I want you to take a moment to just observe the way that you're feeling right now as compared to maybe at the beginning of our session or at the beginning of our talk. Just take a moment to observe where you're at now. Maybe there's a shift, maybe not. But take a moment to observe. Use that idea of svadhyaya, that self-study. Notice the areas that feel good in the body or the mind. That's that samadhi, that bliss, that the reason why we do it all. Just gently begin to blink the eyes open. Take a nice deep inhale and a nice full exhale. I thank you all for joining me today. We have a couple minutes for questions, so you can put them in the chat box and they'll be sent to me and I'll answer them as best as I can. But I hope that you learned some valuable tools to take with you throughout the rest of your 2020. Use these ideas of the yamas and the niyamas to support yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, and also to support the world around you mentally, physically, and emotionally. Remember, it's a path, it's a practice. So keep on the journey. Once again, I'm Katie Marshall. Thank you for joining me so much. I hope you have a great day. Namaste.